Welcome into Northside Territory, Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma with my partner Patrick Mooney. We are your Cubs beat writers over at The Athletic. Patrick, before we get to the show, I want to direct everyone to foulterritoryshop.com. Shop the 2026 All-Star Collection now at the new look site. The drop features every All-Star, including PCA. Keep an eye out for more officially licensed gear throughout the rest of the season and playoffs at foulterritoryshop.com. You can scan that QR code if you're watching on YouTube right now, but that's foulterritoryshop.com. All right, Patrick. It was the 10-year reunion this weekend of, the series no Cubs fan can forget, the World Series. I was not there on Saturday. You covered it. Tell us about the event. Tell us about the vibes and how it was.
Yeah, it was hot. I think a lot of people. It was some long nights there for the 2016 crew, and they certainly enjoyed themselves out in the right field's bleachers there. I guess our guy Nick Friedel was out there for that home run ball
Yeah,
that Michael
wild.
Busch hit that Rizzo did not actually catch. That was a spirited debate on our Slack breaking news channel, or whatever channel it was. Just sort of like, wait, did this just happen? And didn't something like this happen actually last year? But just very, very Rizzo, man of the people out there. And yeah, I think it was almost, I think it's kind of funny to do a quote Champions Gate when you have 3 World Series titles in 150 years. But I thought it blends in well, just kind of visually. And I think they did a good job overall, just like kind of bringing those guys together. I mean, that's what Theo Epstein said. Like everything was first class. Like this was not a one afternoon. It was really a full itinerary over multiple days, families involved. A lot of kind of picking up where they left off, and it's almost foolproof in the sense like that team was just so larger than life, and they just created so many great memories for Cubs fans that just like, putting their face on the video board or just kind of giving a glimpse of them walking out onto the field was a kind of an automatic slam dunk, good feelings. And, the Cubs, won a series, won 2 games, played pretty well. And there were two people that I chose to write about just because I thought they were just kind of a newsworthy angle. And I think maybe we start with David Ross.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like Ross is a fascinating story, right? Like,
No.
I mean, like a hero, like a hero's welcome, carried off the field. Was he like carried off the field? Am I remembering this right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't make this up. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It sounds made up, but it really was after his last game carried off the field.
Just like a huge figure on that World Series team. Obviously comes back and manages the team and is unceremoniously fired to hire Craig Counsell. It could very easily have been an awkward situation for him returning. Being around Jed Hoyer, the man who fired him. How was that situation like? What were your feelings? How was Ross kind of behaving, I guess? Did it feel awkward in any way?
No, he was definitely in character. He spoke with a group of us alongside Anthony Rizzo, so they had their kind of banter back and forth. Like, Rizzo was like, take off your sunglasses. He used another word in front of sunglasses when you're doing an interview. Someone asked Ross about being a coach, and he was like, I was never a coach. I was the manager. Like, he has that sharpness to him. And, my question was just, I felt it just had to be asked. Like, at any point in this planning process for the union, did you have any second thoughts? And he said, no. He said, this is all about kind of the brotherhood they created. Like wherever these guys are, I'll drop everything and be there. It's about celebrating the team's accomplishment, not really his individual feelings. He said that feels like a whole nother chapter of his life. That's why he went to Cubs convention in January. So I feel like there were some intermediate steps before walking out onto the Wrigley Field grass and holding the World Series trophy during the national anthem. And so, I think I may have said this before, but I think it's kind of like David Ross got that job. When him getting that job, that means Joe Madden loses a job. So there was some awkwardness in how he got the job. And
Yeah.
I understand why he was hired then, but it was sort of a very narrow criteria with a specific group of players and club officials upstairs. I think on balance he did a pretty good job, and now weirdly I think he's a much more attractive candidate. I think he has a lot of really good experiences, but it seems like at the moment at least there isn't that same sort of mutual interest. That I don't know if he has that sort of godfather figure the way that Theo Epstein was to kind of like anoint him, or that same set of players and coaches and front office staff that where he can kind of be plugged in the same way. But I think he learned a lot from his time in Chicago, and the sense that I got was not bitterness. It was appreciation for like, wow, how lucky you are to be part of this team. He jokes about John Lester made him a lot of money. It got him into ESPN. He has this podcast through Anthony Rizzo. Like a lot of great things in his life came through the Cubs, and I think that is the overriding feeling. But still, I think the Urian would have been a little different if he was still the manager, and I think these last couple of years would have felt a little different in terms of that connection to 2016.
Yeah, well, there's a couple things here. We don't need to get into the whole psychology of it, but I don't think it'd be the healthiest thing to still be upset about it. Obviously, I'm assuming he wasn't thrilled at the moment and for a little while afterwards, but to hold on to that for what it would be like, would be pushing 3 years now, right? Since he's been fired, it's like 2.5 years. Like hopefully he's moved past the bitterness or the anger that he likely felt initially. But it wasn't like it was a disastrous tenure. Like he wasn't fired.
Good job.
Because he wasn't fired because like this is a mess and they need to find someone else. Hoyer just viewed it as an opportunity. He viewed Craig Counsell as the best manager in the game, and he went and got him. Like you get it. It was pretty like it was devoid of like sentimentality, or you could argue it was a callous move, whatever. But he went and did what he thought was best for the organization at the time. It is interesting that he's not more talked about as a potential manager, though, for other teams. You're right. Like he doesn't have that connection, that Theo Epstein connection that he obviously had with the Cubs. But yeah, no, I'm not surprised that he's not like lamenting it and sitting there bitter still. Like he's a guy that can spin things pretty positively. He's also a very confident guy. I don't think he thinks he's he believes he's a good manager, and he's better than he was even when he was managing the Cubs. Like he learned something from that tenure. I like he's not looking to take a minor league job or something like that. I think he believes he's a good manager and deserves another shot at it. So someone that didn't sound like he was ready to get back in the game as far as running things, Theo Epstein. You asked him about the potential of him being running baseball ops somewhere again.
Yeah, I felt I needed just that quote on the record for whenever hiring and firing season really starts up again. And obviously he has a minority ownership stake in the Red Sox, so like I this is like 8 steps ahead, but I'm assuming you'd have to unwind that if you wanted to join another major league team. But yeah, he's very comfortable in his life on the East Coast with a mix of personal and professional responsibilities, spending time with his family. He's really enjoyed that. I think one way he sort of marks this 10-year reunion is, when the Cubs won in 16, he's sitting there with his older son, viewing it through his eyes, and he is now preparing to go off to college, and so that's kind of how time flies. And I don't know, I just wanted to ask it because Ross felt that deep connection to Theo. Like, Theo had this swagger, this confidence, this gravitas about him that he was never a player, but he could always just sort of say screw it. Like, he could always walk away, or he could he could manage up, he could manage down, he could speak to the media in ways that not everyone can. He could talk to players in ways that not everyone can, I should add as well. And so Ross felt that with Theo, I think more than Jed, even though they had a fairly good relationship going into it. Like, that was Theo's hire, even if Jed, signed off on it after 2019. And so just hearing Theo, talk about, being back around the guys and, telling the old stories, and getting to run around Chicago for a couple late nights. I was just curious if that got the competitive juices flowing again. Obviously, the Red Sox are playing a lot better now. I think maybe the quote would have been viewed differently if they were still in a tailspin. But no, he felt liberation was the word he used when the Cubs won in 16, knowing that would give him the freedom to walk away whenever he wanted. If they hadn't won, he never would have walked away voluntarily. He knew that was like the job to do. So I don't know, something to keep in the back of your mind. I thought it was worth asking, like, if he's standing there, had to look forward somehow. I don't know how many of those opportunities will become available this offseason. I guess the Angels are kind of in transition. I guess the Padres are in the process of finalizing a sale, but Theo can afford to be choosy. So, like, whatever jobs are out there, there are very few that would appeal to him just in an abstract sense. And so it sounds like he's pretty set on continuing in this role with the Fenway Sports Group.
Yeah, no, it really, like, I'm not sure what more he has to prove there. Maybe just like you said, the competitive juices. That's the only thing I could imagine him just wanting that competitiveness and like to be in the mix again. But it makes sense for him to stay, kind of out of that side of things. Let's take a quick break and talk about some baseball stuff, some stuff going on the field, and just how the Cubs could possibly improve this team over the coming weeks.
What if you can actually have it all? And I'm talking about Mint Mobile taking the premium wireless bouginess, Kratz, but then bringing it to the transparency in pricing and the affordability in pricing.
They're going to lay everything out there with a cheap bill that, everybody can handle right now.
You can even bring your current phone and your number if you're thinking about it and you're like, I'm worried about that. No worries. They have you covered because they're able to convert people all the time to the Mint Mobile way. Go to mintmobile.com/territory. That's mintmobile.com/territory. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/territory. That's it. There's no catch. Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required, $15 per month equivalent, taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. Includes up to 20 gigabyte hotspot. Capable device required. Availability, speed, and coverage varies. See mintmobile.com.
All right, Patrick. When talking about how the Cubs improve, it's important to understand, how their system is. And I asked Jed Hoyer about like the state of the system, essentially, like where he felt things were, and he was pretty clear. It's been a good year. That they've improved. The system's gotten better, and it primarily that's happened on the position player side. Like, it's a lot of position players either had bounce back seasons, I guess, or kind of broke out and it's looked good. It's a ton of talent there as far as bats go. Uh, Curious to see how many of them are available in the trade. Like I think the big name that everybody saw break out this year is Josiah Hartshorn, sixth round pick out of high school kid. They paid him well. It wasn't like they were shocked that this is how it turned out. They liked him. They targeted him, and he's played really well. He's a top 50-ish prospect. Some would say better than that. And I would say from just like understanding how this front office works, this guy isn't going anywhere unless they're getting a pitcher who's around for more than this season. He's not going for a rental. Jefferson Rojas is probably like the number one in the system. Middle infielder, contact, power, very highly thought of prospect as well. And those are the types of names. If they're moved, you're not seeing, unless the Cubs get in on Tarek Skubal, and we're talking about a different thing, and some like then maybe, and even then, I just don't think that's how Jed Hoyer and Carter Hawkins think.
No, I mean, what jumped out to me in your piece is Jackson Wiggins. This idea, we kind of alluded to it over the weekend of, if they've restocked the pitching side a bit, if there are some injury concerns, like normally if you're trading a pitcher, you like to backfill on some level. And it seems like Wiggins plus one of these hitters, even if they're sort of on a second tier of prospects, like that will get you something that can help in a pennant race. Like I know maybe that doesn't get you a 2-time Cy Young Award winner, but he might not get traded anyways. And I think the main takeaway from your story was like Cubs are open for business, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's any pitching prospect off the table. Like as far like they drafted a bunch of guys. I feel like they're they are high on who they drafted, and guys are available. There's also, I mean, there's some injuries. Caleb Wing is a young guy that looked good. High school guy drafted last summer. I believe he's out for the season. I don't know exactly. It's an arm injury. I don't know exactly what's going on, but they don't sound optimistic that he's going to pitch again this year. Dominic Reed is someone they drafted last year that was pitching well. He's got a shoulder issue. He's not going to get on the mound, it doesn't sound like, again before the deadline, which likely makes it hard to move a guy like that. Like you can't. It's hard to move guys that are injured unless someone's just like enamored with this guy and willing to take the risk. But it also dampens their value, obviously. But they're willing to move the guys like that. Everyone that was in the system pre-draft, every arm that was in the system pre-draft, I would say is available for the right price. They're willing to move these guys. They didn't love their pitching in general in the system. That's why they went so heavy with pitching in the draft. They were trying to find better fits and guys that they felt were higher upside and they could develop and turn into big pieces of either the major league team or do this again in a couple years.
Yeah, I think some of these guys they have to trade. I know you don't want to make moves out of like desperation or feeling boxed in, but like, Shaw, Ramirez, then you get to that next layer of like a James Triantos, who's at AAA. He was a second round pick in the 21 draft. He had reclassified. The Cubs bought out his commitment to UNC, thinking like the best college hitters in the draft, this is what it looks like when they're in high school. And he hasn't gained a ton of traction in terms of like, being that next man up or generating a ton of buzz. The power just hasn't really come. But as you put it, he's quietly hitting like 314 now with an 800 plus OPS. He is only 23 years old. He's on the 40-man roster. As you put it, like, the best thing for his career would probably be getting traded to a rebuilding situation where he could get some runway. And like, he's not the only player in that sort of predicament. Like, there's not a clear path to Wrigley, and sometimes the longer you keep these guys, the less valuable they become.
Yeah, it feels like Triantos needs to be moved for both sides, like to maximize his value for the Cubs and for him to get a chance to, get some major league innings, get out there and get in some games for some team that's, rebuilding and willing to give him time out there. Kane Kepley, I saw something online yesterday that he may have left a game injured, but that's a guy that, center fielder, like good defender, fast. He doesn't have power, but he gets on base a ton, can, make a ton of contact. Like, what's his path? Like, how is he going to get to the big leagues for the Cubs? It just doesn't make sense with Pete Armstrong entrenched in center field. That's a guy that has some value. There's some good depth here. One name that I don't think the Cubs would move because it's hard to find young catchers is Owen Ayers. He's kind of broken out this year. I know he's 25. Catchers develop a little slowly. I just think I could see him, like, he feels like someone that, like, next year at this time we're talking about, like, oh, Owen Ayers is playing pretty well for the major league team. He's a nice bat. That's just my personal opinion, just talking to people around the team. Like, and I also remember it was a year and a half ago, they were desperate for catching. Like, you don't just give away catching in a trade. Unless you're, unless a team is adamant. It's kind of like when the Cubs got Michael Bush, the Dodgers didn't want anyone else but Zaire Hope. The Cubs didn't want to give Zaire Hope away, but that's who the Dodgers demanded in that trade, and that's what they need to do to get the deal done. So I guess if there's a deal where they're getting someone that they really value, you could see, like, I don't think any of these guys are really untouchable. But that's a name that I would add to, like, the just below Hartshorn and Rojas, maybe even equal with them, just because he's a catcher, and they're so hard to develop catchers, so hard to get catchers. He's supposedly pretty good behind the plate, and he's just raking everywhere he goes. He's kind of broke out in the AFL and hasn't stopped hitting.
Yeah, I think, the Cubs don't have the number one farm system. Yes, some of these trades, like, will have to hurt. Like, that's the idea, but I think they have enough to be credible in just about any conversation, particularly when you include Matt Shaw once he's healthy, or if you can discuss, like, I don't think they're going to trade Moises Ballesteros,
Right.
but teams will have to listen, if you're that open-minded, and there are, if you're structuring a deal, you can kind of go longer with a Jefferson Rojas. You can give an immediate everyday player in a Matt Shaw, and obviously there are kind of degrees within those ranges later on pitching, but you never know what another team's model or scouting group might say. I think the Cubs, if another team is dead set on getting pitching, the Cubs are just, like, at a disadvantage, but there are other ways to sort of compensate to a degree for that.
Yeah, and it's also important to remember, like, when we talk about, like maybe a missed trade, like the Michael Soroka trade, Eli Morgan trade, like the prospect that you gave up, Ronnie Cruz and Alphonsine Rosario, they may never become good major leaguers. I think the issue you have with those trades is you didn't get the value of what those, like, Ronnie Cruz is more valuable now. Rosario is more valuable now. You can get better players. So what you want to do is trade, even if you don't love the prospect, you want to make sure you're maximizing their value. So that's why when I say, like, Jackson Wiggins is available, well, do the Cubs love him? Do the Cubs think, like, or do they think like maybe this is his best value and he's a reliever in the long run? Those are the types of decisions they need to make over the coming weeks. All right, let's take a quick break and kind of talk about why they're going to have to make these moves and be so open-minded about who's available in the system.
This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Baseball fans, the MLB season is in full swing, and FanDuel is giving you a chance to call your shot with daily dingers. Joining the action is easy. Just make your free pick on who's hitting a home run in their game, and if you're right, you'll get a profit boost to use on your next bet for a chance at extra winnings. It's just another reason why FanDuel is the home of home runs. So, are you ready to play your game? Head over to FanDuel.com/podcast to get started. That's FanDuel.com/podcast to opt in for daily dingers. Make your free pick on who's hitting a homer. Play ball. Swing for the fences on FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball. No purchase necessary. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER.
So, Patrick, we got updates on everybody's health. Jameson Taillon is expected to be activated before tonight's game and pitch and start for the Cubs. We're recording on Monday, by the way. Outside of that, it wasn't like imminent returns for anyone. Edward Cabrera, I think, is a few weeks away still. I'm probably missing some other names, but the next name I was thinking of is Daniel Palencia, which essentially amounted to a setback. Like he's not, he doesn't sound like he's coming back real soon. Like it sounds like he'll be back, but it's not imminent. That puts a lot
mid-August,
yeah. That puts a lot of pressure.
Earliest.
Yeah. That puts pressure on the bullpen, that puts pressure on the starters. They need innings. And I asked Jed about the idea of like, is it as simple as, are you sticking to your outgetters idea, or do you need to go get a starter? And I was actually a little surprised by his answer, because he's like, we love outgetters. You don't want to overcomplicate things sometimes, and you just need to get the 27 outs. But, Council doesn't want to burn through these bullpen arms. You can't do that. You need guys that can get you 18, 21 outs. We saw, like, it was a 10-0 game yesterday, Sunday, against the Twins. At one point, it was 10-0, I believe, and Shota Imanaga went 7 innings because that's valuable. Like he wasn't wasting a lot of pitches. It's not like they sent him out there for 120 pitches. It was sub 100 pitches, and he gave them 7 innings. That's important. You want starters that can do that. Can he go out there and get the 18, 21 out guy? That remains to be seen. But I thought it was interesting that he didn't just say like, look, we need to improve the pitching. It doesn't matter how many outs we get from the guys we acquire.
Yeah, I was surprised by that one as well. That quote jumped out to me, and I think illustrates how aggressive this front office is going to be just in terms of getting pitching. Maybe it's not a frontline starter, but they want someone who can provide length. And the other piece of that was Palencia. Like when we were in Cincinnati right before the All-Star break, he was packing up to go to Arizona for the All-Star break with the idea that, maybe coming out of that, he could start, kind of throwing with more intent and starting that ramp up. And, Craig Counsell said if we were looking at early August, now we're looking at kind of the middle of August, assuming they make progress and there are no setbacks, which we've all seen how just unpredictable or unreliable these timelines can be. So like they legit need a late game reliever that you trust in high leverage situations. And I think kind of winning 90 plus games and kind of finishing out this race is different than the sprint in the postseason. Like you kind of have to build your team different ways. And that's why whatever starter they get, maybe, you're not going to ask him to throw 7 innings in a playoff game, but to get there and have just kind of the overall feel and tenor of your pitching staff to be in a much better place. Like, you're going to probably have to get like one starter and one, dependable, experienced reliever as kind of a bare minimum.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you need to get 2 relievers, one who's like no doubt going to help your bullpen and like level things up. It's going to cost a lot in prospects. These aren't cheap additions, but I think you have to with Palencia kind of a question mark, because you just don't know what the situation is going to be. No. You don't know when you're getting Ben Brown back. If you're getting, the council seems adamant that Ben Brown is coming back this season. Don't know when. Hunter Harvey's not really a part of the mix. He hasn't been all season, but like, these are the types of high end arms you'd want in a bullpen. They don't have those guys right now, and it's really a tenuous situation in that bullpen. They've done an admirable job. The numbers aren't dreadful, but it's just one of those things where it feels like a ticking time bomb. Like, you don't have enough high end stuff in there right now. There's just not. Like, they're doing an admirable job. You need to get more guys healthy, but the moves are going to have to be made. Otherwise, I don't really know how you get through this. And the reality is, you want it. Like, this team is good offensively and elite defensively. You can add a couple more pitchers to the group. Hope for 50% of the guys that are hurt to come back, and you feel good about the chances of making a run. Like, that's how you have to look at it. So we'll see what type of moves they make and what they do going forward.
I think you still try to catch the Brewers. They had a very Brewers weekend,
they did.
Which the Cubs did. It's going to be hard to close that gap. I think you also can't like assume you're going to win that wild card. If you have another 10-game losing streak, if you have a bad stretch, in August, September, like, there are enough teams, flawed teams, but clubs with some talent, some pieces that aren't going to just go away. I have a hard time seeing like the Washington Nationals staying power. Who knows what the Padres are going to do? They could, with AJ Preller, they could do some weird stuff to reshape their team, but like Diamondbacks, Pirates, Marlins, the Cardinals are still hanging around, and obviously the Phillies, maybe they catch the Braves, like who knows, but it's not like an automatic, it's not like their ticket's been punched yet. They still, as council says, like, have to keep stacking up wins.
Absolutely. Yeah, this team can't kind of let up. There's going to be pitching added, a lot of pitching added in the next few weeks. And they're still they're cycling through the smaller moves. Aaron Savali added over the weekend. They're looking for innings and outs however they can get them. And like we said, that you want to make that big swing and get that starter that can actually save your bullpen as well. Well, they're going to make moves. They're going to start coming at some point, the bigger ones. We'll see what the Cubs can actually pull off. All right, thanks so much for listening, everyone. This is Northside Territory. Make sure to rate, review, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and subscribe to The Athletic, where Patrick and I are on top of all things Cubs. Thanks for listening and watching, everyone. Take care.